Lesson 25. Love has been designated in the beginning of this course as the fourth and final aspect of universal life energy. Though last in logical order, it is nevertheless first in importance among the four fundamentals from which all existence is derived, because without it nothing could exist for a single moment. Deprived of love, or the power of attraction, to hold its component particles together, the universe itself would collapse, melting back into its original common substance and vanishing in a whirl of electronic dust. The law of attraction, or love, is therefore the governing and sustaining power which holds the entire universe together in one coherent whole. Whatever is, exists because of the law of love, manifesting through it. It continues to exist as that thing because the law of love prevents it from lapsing from its place in the harmonious universal scheme and invading the sphere of something else. Love is the basis of eternal harmony, the law, and also the fulfillment of the law. That is why it must be continually manifested in order to operate. The two acts are identical. All constructive growth and progress achieves its increase from the law of love operating through it. At the impulse of that law it proceeds unerringly along the ways which offer it the soundest development free from conflict with other natural laws. Disharmony is the result of going contrary to the laws of nature, a course which can only have its origin first in a violation of the law of harmony itself. Love is harmony, and because of its harmonizing qualities is able to smooth out discord, coordinate, adjust and strengthen wherever it is given the opportunity to emerge into expression. Man, as a product of nature, is a most complex, highly evolved and potentially powerful channel for the law of attraction to work through. On him converge, from one side, all the boundless natural forces and laws, to be transmuted and built out into actual expression as the varied activities through which he projects his individuality into evidence. If, in the inner self where the manner of that expression is conceived, the law of love is permitted to operate freely in connection with it, each act will shape itself rightly for the realization of whatever constructive aim prompts it, and each will constitute a perennial spring of harmony through which that law wells into ever ampler evidence in his life. Thus there is no department of human activities from which the law of attraction may be profitably withdrawn. Every daily act, however trivial in itself, is like a twig on the spreading tree of your mortal life. As long as it is nourished by the same sap that feeds the massive trunk and branches, it flourishes as a useful, dependable, harmonious unit in the life of the tree, contributing its tiny quota of strength to the whole and growing constantly to more important proportions of utility and service. But let the sap be diverted from the twig, the law of attraction shut out from the act, and it will wither to ruin and decay, becoming simply so much of a dead burden to be carried by the rest. For instance, if you are in business, you naturally want that business to function smoothly, efficiently, and successfully. Friction and trouble within the machine, or unnecessary difficulties in its path, are equally distasteful, for the very practical reason that they waste precious energy and retard progress. A new enterprise that goes to wreck for lack of cooperation between employer and employees, a plan of expansion that fails to secure the expected approval of customers, short-sighted buying and selling, irritating transactions of every sort which tend to upset your poise and judgment and render you liable to successively greater mistakes in the future, form an increasing load of dead wood for you to carry or sink under. Yet the solution of all these difficulties lies constantly at hand in the proper application to them of the law of attraction, or love. Whenever you deal with employees, customers, or anyone with whom your business interests bring you into personal contact, take the trouble to make the contact first with universal life energy. Relax and open yourself, body and mind, to the inflow of that force. The result will be that love, as an aspect of that universal power, will pour into you and through you, restoring your lost equilibrium, smoothing away the tension that dulls your faculties, clearing your vision and your judgment, and establishing a sympathetic channel between you and the other individual over which you will effect the most mutually satisfactory exchange. In this connection, remember that love is referred to, not in its limited sense of a personal sentiment, but in its great impersonal aspect as a supreme universal power. To feel a personal attachment for a business rival whom you may not even know is neither practical nor, as a general rule, possible, but to achieve an open and kindly attitude, unbiased by prejudice, which enables you to weigh all things justly, to perceive the bad without losing sight of the good, to meet all conditions with a calm understanding that proceeds from an impersonal love of a larger nature, is not only possible but essential for your best advantage. Supplement common sense by the constant use of universal life energy, particularly through its fourth aspect of love, in your ordinary business transactions, and you will be astonished at the practical results it will achieve in promoting fairness and honesty from others, and affluence and success in every direction. The real power of love cannot be misused. Like the universal life energy of which it is one aspect, it is superior to any effort to direct it into a negative channel for a wrong end. Constructive as it is when allied to a positive cause, just so destructive does it become when an attempt is made to pervert it. Therefore, never think to take an unfair advantage of someone else with its help. It will destroy evil and discord without respect to persons, and will carry disaster to you with as little compunction as you sought its aid. You yourself are aware of what a blighting passion hatred is, yet hatred is but the perversion of love to its other extreme. Often people with a narrow and twisted concept of love only perceive it mirrored in reverse in this fashion. The most compelling power in the universe is corrupted in their understanding to a spineless sentimentality, which finds expression in a slavish catering to other people's desire, whims, and impulses, whether good or bad. Such a diseased version of love, substituting weakness for strength, shows the most abject ignorance of its real nature. Love is a supreme universal power, therefore to use love means above all to become powerful. Love is unalterably allied to right, and the individual also must conform to the right in order to experience its positive influence. To manifest love, you must first be alert to discern, beyond all immediate consequences, the truly constructive course to follow, and resolute to decide on it. Then stand firmly by your decision, not in words but in actions, and at the same time temper that firmness with fairness and gentleness. Such a love will not win easy acceptance in the beginning, perhaps. It will touch to a boil the negative in others, who see their interest in swaying you from your purpose by their hostile clamor. But it will command respect. Strength cannot do otherwise, and as the right asserts itself behind the friendly and unaggressive firmness in which you persevere, opposition will simmer away to be replaced by a genuine responsive love. Give love to the world, and the world will sooner or later always return it to you with increase. While business is one limb of the many-branched tree of your interests, another, most important of all and most completely dependent on love for its proper nourishment, is your family. Especially in the upbringing of children should love be the single recourse for guiding and developing the unformed character, because love is a dominant trait in children and quick to respond to its call. Yet even more firmly than with adults must that love be exercised. Parents who are prone to indulge children in any and all circumstances, on the assumption that they thereby encourage the growth of spirit and independence, in reality simply indulge their own weakness at the child's expense. Children, who are very sensitive and observing, as well as far more direct and logical in their reasoning than adults, as a rule, are not slow to perceive weakness and take advantage of it. They delight in reversing the roles, and are such natural-born adepts at doing so that few parents ever suspect the extent to which they are the dupes of their innocent offspring. Moreover, do not imagine that you can successfully recommend one code of living to your children and practice another yourself. They pattern themselves after what you are, not what you say. Though they may not tell you so, for fear of punishment, they are all the time judging you with remorseless accuracy. Your acts are what set the seal of absolute conviction on your precepts, and it is only by being in your life an example of the power of love that you can bring forth the best in children. One of the most regrettable features of modern existence is that everyone seems too busy to scatter among his fellow men many kind thoughts, words, looks, or deeds. This is a great mistake. Love, like anything else, requires continual exercise in order to give its best service. Unexpressed, it merely stagnates. Never fear to show kindness and consideration to others under the mistaken impression that you will lose something of your own dignity or expose yourself to the hurt of a rebuff. A rebuff cannot disturb a spirit of genuine kindliness, and a dignity too unsure of itself to stir into the open is scarcely worth preserving. The pleasantness and beauty of human relations spring from the degree of love manifested in those relations, and as love is by nature free from the taint of any selfish or unwholesome motives, it can never infringe upon the rights of another. Far from becoming a burden, it emphasizes individual freedom and promotes the unhampered growth of individual interests, bringing happiness to all. The negative passions, on the other hand, such as selfishness, jealousy, hatred, anger, etc., are as universally destructive as their positive counterparts are beneficial. Like a virulent acid, they scorch and burn wherever they touch, but the havoc they may wreak on the one against whom they are directed is mild compared with the destruction they work on the one who entertains them. Failure, ruin, and unhappiness travel in their wake. For success, the actual realization of constructive endeavor, cannot possibly survive where the negative prevails. It is not easy for most human beings to rid themselves of their negative passions, nor do they often perceive the full extent of the danger that resides in indulging them. Yet if they would study their aberrations, not in the false light of isolated occurrences, but as the ominous pulsations of a rising current of evil which threatens to corrupt their whole character and abilities, they would suddenly appreciate the immense practical advantage of getting rid once and for all of such an enemy within. Universal life energy is, of course, the certain corrective of these unbalanced states. Any access of passion which breaks through your self-control upsets your equilibrium and drags you from the position of command over your faculties. To rely on willpower or any mental forces to suppress them is unwise and usually futile, because their source is in mind and their very existence proves that they have already stampeded precisely those mental forces with which you wish to combat them. Moreover, your chief aim is to eliminate the evil itself rather than merely suppress a single manifestation of it, and this can only be accomplished by a power greater than any which dwells in the afflicted mind alone. Whenever you feel jealousy, envy, or hatred flare sullenly in your heart, or selfishness invade with smothering vapors your better impulses, relax and make the contact with universal life energy. Do not yield to the sudden impulse of fear that prompts you to try to choke them back within you. The enemy must be openly meant to be vanquished. Let them come out in the natural manner, but be sure that you yourself make the contact each time with universal life energy, either mentally or, if you are too much upset mentally, through the star exercise, or simply by turning one or both palms upward. You will discover, to your amazement, that you are no longer helpless in the grip of the storm that rages within, that you feel soothed, quieted, unafraid, until presently you are aware that the evil passion has vanished as traceless as a shadow, leaving a calm of perfect confidence in its place. Such is the miracle wrought by the harmonizing power of love, the fourth aspect of the universal force. So simple and automatic is the process that one often finds it hard to credit the remarkable results. The condition it has to combat looms so impressively that the instinctive reaction is to anticipate an equally difficult struggle to contend successfully with it. But these difficulties exist chiefly in the victim's imagination, which magnify the whole thing to alarming proportions. The greater and more powerful the force used, the simpler its operation, especially when the force in question is a natural one. Every human being cherishes in his heart a longing for companionship, for the wholly disinterested exchange of affections with another. Yet few can ever affirm honestly to their inmost selves that this longing has been fully realized. Life is in this respect a great disappointment for the majority of people, who at the best are forced to admit secretly that they never attained real happiness or a very generous measure of true friendship. But life was not meant to be that way. Every individual possesses as birthright the right to have friends and life companions. Through him as through all human beings the law of love is continually working out the universal brotherhood of man by its own motherhood. It is only necessary to be an open channel for the law to work through freely in order to have friends who love you as you love them. Guard against the mistake of envying others who are rich in friendships. Such a course will never attract friends to you. Envy is one of the most common and potent of the negative influences to which mankind are liable, and like all negative forces is distinctly repellent. It will drive back as nothing else could the very thing you want to attract. Understand that in order to be loved you must have in your own nature something worth loving. An ordinary piece of iron possesses nothing to distinguish it from any other piece of iron, until it is invested with a peculiar current of force. Then it becomes a magnet, drawing to it other metals. Similarly, you must radiate from yourself the magnetic power of love, which will draw a like response from those with whom you come in contact. The importance of finding, not only the right sort of friends, but the life companion who should be the foremost friend, cannot be overestimated. Yet very often people devote all their attention to sifting out those whom they would like to establish in this relation, and complain with bitter melancholy when they find their proffered friendship ignored. Wholly blind to the supreme selfishness of this course, they consider themselves abused and unappreciated, when in fact their trouble comes only from being truly appreciated at their real value. They look for the best, without giving any thought to what they themselves have to offer in exchange. Start your career by wringing this foolish conceit out of your system. Forget the success others may have had in obtaining ideal friends, arid life companions, and turn all your attention to developing love within yourself. The more you exercise it, the more you manifest love to everyone under all circumstances, the greater it grows. That is the treasure you must heap up in yourself to attract the desire of others. Gold never glitters unnoticed for long amid the passing throng. Its worth strikes the most heedless eye and draws plenty of claimants. Once having created the genuine value within yourself, your only difficulty will be, not how to attract those to whose friendship you aspire, but how to select the best among those who have been attracted. Use your own discrimination to single out as friend or life companion the one whom your own heart fixes on as a kindred spirit, the one whose individuality blends most sympathetically with your own. Age or physical appearance play a very minor role with respect to love and its power of attraction. The gold is no less precious and desirable for the shape and texture of its container. That is why beauty so frequently yields precedence to more homely virtues in the matrimonial field. The choice falls rather on a less ornate fleshly purse that is full of the coin of sound qualities than on the more handsome one that is empty. Therefore, if real love blows in your heart and radiates throughout your whole being, do not doubt but what you will be loved in spite of the disadvantages of age. People will no longer see the material shell when its chinks and crevices serve only to reveal the treasure of inner qualities. They will love you for what you actually are, not for the transitory abode in which you live. Youth commands love, and love itself is the very essence of youth. Eventually, even the physical evidence of old age must surrender to the transcendent power of love. If you want to be young in physical appearance, entertain constantly in your heart, and manifest constantly in your actions the love from which youth springs. There is no better method of rejuvenation than this. Remember, your physical body is simply the expression of your inner activities, a statue molded by your own soul. In its lines are wrought all the changing play of those emotions and thoughts out of which your character erects itself. A positive and constructive way of thinking and feeling carves its touch of health, strength, beauty, and youth on the image it inhabits. The negative passions that creep in, such as hatred, jealousy, envy, and selfishness, chisel their ugly marks deep in the defenseless features. Take advantage of this unceasing renewal of your material self and fashion it to a pattern of an inner self remodeled on lines of higher thinking and an improved standard of living. If you attend to the inner development, you will have no cause to worry about its embodiment in outward form. Love, the greatest power, is a master sculptor who will scrupulously translate in terms of flesh and form as much of your soul as you will expose on the model's seat. Therefore, love truly and constantly, and leave the rest to the law of love. You will find that the unique assortment of qualities which constitute your individuality, the distinctive beauty of soul WHCH sets you apart from every other living being, will soak through into material expression as sunlight soaks through clouds. The individual you will glow forth arrestingly and strike you out from the mass of your fellows as original, interesting, and lovable. In conclusion, carry away with you from these pages a clear and vigorous concept of what love actually is. Understand it, not as a lonely and mysterious urge which roams only the narrow confines of your particular little life, but as the measureless tide of universal power which science knows it to be. Identify your tiny candle flame of love with relation to the blazing sun of love from which it was caught, and by perceiving its titanic works throughout the whole boundless expanse of rocks and firmaments, seas, stars, and unseen worlds beyond the sweep of telescopic vision, obtain some idea of the nature of its power and why it is such a compelling force in your individual life. Love is attraction. Attraction is both a force and a law. The law of attraction, whose existence was perceived first by Newton, was called by him the law of gravity. This force, operating in accordance with its own law, governs the entire universe, functioning with an exactitude that never varies, on the greatest scale as on the smallest. Because of this precise and invincible law manifest in its workings, love is the basis of eternal harmony. Human ingenuity has never been able to penetrate, either through the large or the small end of the scale, to a region where the working of the law of attraction, or love, is not apparent. Celestial bodies small or vast in bulk, from meteorites to planets huge beyond the ability even of the imagination to embrace, float like bubbles through infinite space. Without visible support or impulse, they spin and hurtle through vacancy, each pursuing a regular orbit of its own with an amazing and mathematical precision. What prevents them from falling or erring from their course, so that they crash together in a common universal ruin? The law of attraction, within which resides all order and harmony. The same law asserts itself with the same marvelous precision within the microscopic walls of the smallest particle of matter. The atom, resolved into its component parts, discovers itself as a tiny cosmos in which a swarm of electrons repeat, on a scale below the farthest range of visibility, the identical evolutions which sketch themselves across the boundless sweep of the heavens in letters ages long. Everywhere the force and the law of attraction operate to hold all things together, maintaining their proper relations, governing their activities. Human beings, like everything else, are subject to that law. It functions in the electrons and atoms of which their physical bodies are constructed, in the beat of their hearts, and the cycles of their thoughts. Every particle of their existence is threaded on it like beads on a string. To live in accordance with the law of attraction, or love, to identify oneself with it in thought and wish and deed, is therefore to enlist the whole invincible power of this universal force in one's behalf. To live against it is to oppose oneself to a juggernaut that will crush and destroy. There can be no compromise with love. It is an impersonal force, all-pervading, all-powerful, supreme. No human will can affect in the slightest the power that holds the universe in its grip. If you accommodate yourself to it, you will reap all the advantages that such a strength can achieve. But if you violate it, you reap only destruction. A star which leaves its orbit, swerving aside from the course prescribed by the law of attraction, loses its equilibrium and presently encounters annihilation. That law works through the life of the individual just as surely as through the life of the star. You have no choice but to be either with it or against it. Let the law of attraction work through you, and you will not fail to secure the health, success, and happiness to which you aspire. Exercises. Continue to practice the star exercise morning and evening, together with relaxation, silence, and the constant mental contact with universal life energy. In addition to these, enter into the new exercises for this week, known as harmonization. The purpose of harmonization is to adjust yourself with relation to the universal forces and laws which seek expression through you. Sickness, inefficiency, poverty, unhappiness, discord, of any sort which impairs your rightful powers, exist in direct proportion to your own conscious or unconscious violation of natural laws. In proportion as you reestablish yourself in full accord with those laws, the ill effect of your opposition to them will vanish, and you will come to the peak of your vigor and efficiency in every direction. You will attain the perfect poise which is the keystone of all strength. To practice harmonization, proceed as follows. After you have relaxed, entered into silence, and made the contact with universal life energy, concentrate on the love aspect of that force from which peace and harmony spring. Understand that harmony is a fundamental condition of all being, the norm of absolute equilibrium toward which all things in nature instinctively aspire. Realize that deep within you, as within everything, the core of that harmony exists as true and uncorrupted as in the gigantic symphony of all powers which roll the worlds on their courses. Endeavor to feel it, to connect it once again with the harmony outside through the neglected human you which you have permitted to fall out of proper alignment. Let inspiration, drawn from your contact with the love aspect of universal life energy, weld together the broken parts of that chain in which your human self has proved the faulty link. This exercise, more than any other, will build up within you that sense of poise and instant command over all your faculties, mental and physical, which makes you master over every situation because it makes you master first over yourself. You will achieve the peace which comes from consciousness of strength, a calm and confident equanimity manifesting itself in steadiness of mind and emotions, which no circumstance even of the utmost danger can disturb. This is indeed a divine quality, and at the same time of the greatest practical value. Remember in the performance of this exercise to avoid any use of willpower. Aside from the fact that such an attempt can only cut you off from contact with the very force that you are trying to contact, it is clearly futile for you to exert a very limited human mental power in an endeavor to bend the supreme power to your ends. You cannot compel the highest to resign itself to your will, but you can engage its help by trustfully and lovingly delivering yourself into its arms. Questions and answers to Lesson 25. 1. What place does love occupy in the universe? The place love occupies in the universe is that of the governing and sustaining power which cements the entire universe together in one harmonious whole. 2. To what extent does it enter into the activities of human beings? The extent to which it enters into the activities of human beings is completely, as there is no human activity which can proceed without it. 3. Of what practical advantage is love in business? The practical advantage of love in business is that it constitutes the power of attraction on which all transactions depend, and by the law of harmony inherent in it determines the proper course for the greatest success. 4. How is love distinguished from weak sentimentality? Love is distinguished from weak sentimentality, primarily, by its nature as the strongest power it is possible to manifest, and by the fact that this strength is unalterably allied to the positive and constructive side. 5. Can love and discipline be reconciled in the rearing of children? Love and discipline can and must be reconciled in the rearing of children, because real love cannot tolerate a negative and destructive tendency. 6. In what way are you directly responsible for the good or bad traits your children develop? You are directly responsible for the good or bad traits in your children, and that children pattern their character after your example, fully accepting your precepts only as you confirm them by your acts. 7. How will you profit from the exercise of love in all your relations with the world at large? You will profit from the exercise of love in all your relations with the world at large, by developing the power of love within you, thus making yourself constantly strong in every direction. 8. What relation do the negative passions bear to love? The relation of the negative passions to love is that negative passions, such as hatred, envy, jealousy, etc., are the perversion of love to its other extreme of destructive power. 9. How can they be eliminated? They can be eliminated by contacting universal life energy, especially in its aspect of love, and allowing that harmonizing current to flush body, mind, and emotions clean of the discord which manifests itself in negative passions. 10. What responsibility must you fulfill in order to attract the friends and the life companion you desire? The responsibility you must fulfill in order to attract the friends or life companion you desire is that of developing within yourself something worth loving, a strength of love that will merit the return of love that you expect from them. 11. What part does love play in physical rejuvenation? The part played by love in physical rejuvenation is that love is itself the essence of youth and will be built out into harmonious and youthful physical expression in proportion as it exists within you. 12. What, briefly, is the scientific explanation of love? The scientific explanation of love is the power of attraction, which is both a universal force and a law of harmony. It manifests itself throughout the entire universe as a magnetic power, called by its discoverer, Newton, the force and law of gravity. Its most commonly known expression through the human emotions is known as love in its limited personal sense.